Hey, what's up, everybody? Matt Chavez here with M.B.S, Music, Beats, and Sounds, Mind, Body, Spirit. And in this video, I want to go over body posture. And this has to do with how we're standing and how we're sitting all day long. And this also can roll into how we're sleeping as well, which has a big impact on how we're feeling each day with how we're holding our bodies in these prolonged positions. So this first clip I'm going to show you pretty much shows a neutral position and neutral alignment of our bodies. So when we're standing, the feet are forward, and then as you move up, the pelvis is in a neutral position, and then the lower back has a slight curve to it, which is called lordosis. A little bit of lordosis is natural. And then as you move up into the upper back, there's a little bit of an arch there, and then where the neck is as well. And so in this next clip, I'm going to go over some of the different conditions that tend to happen when our bodies deviate from the neutral position. And so in the first one, it's explaining the lordosis, which is kind of that curve in the lower back. And this can be an extreme is hyperlordosis, which can cause an extreme arch in the low back, and that causes a lot of lower back pain. And which on the next image right here, the kyphosis is a little bit better representation of that right there. It has, you can see that extreme arch in the low back, and in the kyphosis, the upper back is kind of creating a hump, and it creates a bunch of stress on the upper part of the body as well. The next image shows the flat back, which there is no curves really, and this has its own set of problems because we all have to have our natural curves in place, and having no curve at all is, on the other side of the extreme of it not being well balanced in our bodies. And then in the sway back, it's kind of a combination of kyphosis and lordosis together. And you'll see that it has a lot to do kind of with the positioning of the legs. The legs are almost leaning forward. The person's almost leaning forward, and then the upper back has to compensate and lean backward to balance itself out. So, and then, scoliosis is major curvature of the spine, which is one of the most extreme, cases you can get of misalignment of the spine, and it just throws everything off in the body. So, so in this next image, I'm going to show you, kyphosis and lordosis at a higher level. So here's the kyphosis here. You see the forward head going forward and the rounding of the upper back, and it's like a hunched upper back. And you see that little hump right there. And then hyperlordosis is again that extreme curvature of the lower back. And this causes a lot of low back pain. And so the next image here, I want to show you, some of the sway back and then lordosis and all that. A lot of it has to do again with the positioning of the legs. You'll see that the sway back is almost leaning forward with their legs, and then their upper back has to compensate and almost lean back to balance itself out, as opposed to the lordosis, where the legs are more straight. They're not really leaning forward, but you're getting that extreme arch in the lower back. As I said in the beginning, a little bit of lordosis is normal. We want a little bit of curvature in the low back, but not too much. So what creates a lot of this in the lower part of our bodies with the legs is called lower cross syndrome. And in this image here, it shows what this is all about. And it has to do with weak lower glutes, and then weak abdominals, and then tight erector spinae, which is the lower back muscles, and then tight hip flexors. So I would say, unless you're working on these issues and helping to strengthen and stretch the body accordingly, most people have this going on, and their abdominals are weak, and the lower part of the glute is weak. And then since those are weak, then the other muscles that are compensating to make our movements possible from day to day are the lower back and then the tight hip flexors. So this next image is a picture of our pelvis and how all these muscles connect in from our legs into our lower back and our abs right here. So when the pelvis is in a neutral position, these muscles are more relaxed and they're doing what they're supposed to. But again, when the erector spinae, the lower back muscles are very tight, it's pulling the pelvis out of place. And the rectus abdominis, the abs, when they're weak, and the lower parts of the glutes, it's causing this pelvis to get out of alignment, and it's causing the other muscles around it to be overworked. So this next image with the water is a good example of how this is working. So when these muscles aren't supporting the pelvis properly, the water is then tipping from one side or the other. And this is the misalignment of the pelvis, which I will show certain exercises and stretches to help correct these ailments here. But I just wanted to bring up what this is all about and give notice to those who don't know what's going on inside their bodies with these issues. So, okay, and then the next image here is kind of shifting the pelvis and hiking up one side. And I see a lot of people doing this when they're standing. We kind of shift our weight to one side or the other, and it hikes up the hips and it shifts the pelvis up or down. And there's more weight being distributed to one side. So it's an imbalance of how we're standing. And this adds up over time of, repeated motions again and again, standing in this manner. And, a lot of it has to do with if you're standing in line for a long time, or if you're just standing all day at work, whatever it might be. A lot of it has to do with just standing in one position, and you kind of shift to one side or to the other to help, balance things out. And if you're shifting more so, then you're going to create a hiked up hip, which is a muscle imbalance, and it's going to affect the body. All right, and now this next image has to do with how our feet are positioned, and everything starts kind of at the feet here as well. So as you're standing, you could either have your feet slightly outward, or some people are kind of pigeon-toed and have their feet in, which creates a misalignment with the ankles, and then the knees are affected. And some people I've seen a lot, they stand with one foot to one side, and they have one foot straight and one foot slightly to one side. And this creates a misalignment in the body. It's actually better to stand with both feet slightly out if you're going to stand like that, rather than one foot straight and then the other slightly angled out, because the balance is different and the shifting of the weight is being distributed unevenly, because one side has to compensate larger to make this position happen. So it all starts with the position of the feet. It's good to have both feet facing forward, or if you're going to have your feet slightly angled out, you can slightly angle both of them out together so they're both the weight is distributed evenly as you're in that kind of position. So that's very important to take note of as well, is how your feet are positioned and how you're standing all day long in these different positions. Okay, and now the next one has to do with the scapula. And a lot of us have tight upper traps, and like our mid back is usually weak unless you're staying actively addressing these kind of issues. And this next image shows that pretty accurately. So This is upper cross syndrome, which has to do with a lot of forward head posture and tight upper traps. The upper neck is pretty tight, and then tight pec muscles, and then weak mid back muscles. So this is what contributes to this ailment here. And again, if you're not actively stretching and strengthening these type of muscles, I would say most people fall into this category as well. And this can be a very, weak posture that a lot of people accumulate through sitting at desks for long periods of time and straining to see what's going on the computer. And it just adds up over time. You can accumulate it also through, standing and doing other things that make this happen. But a lot of this has to do with sitting for prolonged periods of time in the wrong position. So, okay, this next image shows the forward head posture, and this shows the proper alignment that you should have as your neck is in neutral, as your neck and your head are in neutral position with your spine as it connects. And we should, for the most part, be kind of tucking our chin in and then keeping, our head at a level tilt. You don't want to be tilting your head too far back, and you don't want to be tilting it too far down. Like when you're looking at your phone, you're tilting it too far down. And if you're tilting it up, you're then compressing the suboccipital muscles that connect through the back of the neck that are at the base of the skull. And this will add up over time as well, and you'll start to feel, aches and pains in the back of your neck because you're tilting your head back, and it's not in a neutral position. So you want your chin level. You want your chin tucked in, and then you want your chin level. You don't want it up or down too far, because all these repetitions of these movements are going to add up. So now I'm going to show some examples of what these are, and now I'm going to go into different exercises and stretches to help combat these kind of ailments.